this new edition of the auto voice thing
It's
is
so
Crazy.
weird, isn't it?
So
I
crazy.
can't
It's
stand
so
it.
Stepford wife, man.
It is also wives. This weekend was Astoria Open Studios, and so our
Yeah.
studios were open to the public, and I did a live painting performance. And something that I talked a lot about during my live painting performance with people is that abstract art in general is very similar to driving. It's a series of decisions that you are making in reaction to what is going on in front of you. Therefore, a big part of your vocabulary and your abilities are made um, through kind of these mundane learning experiences, is what I would call them. So, after having that conversation and doing that 3 hour performance, I was thinking a lot about one particular artist. And so, we're going to look at Piet Mondrian today. And you know, abstract art is still very young in comparison to a lot of other art forms, and it was directly influenced by a lot of other um, types of artwork that came before it. One of those types of artwork, I think we called it neoplasticism, which I still haven't really quite figured out how that has to do with what he was doing. Um, but one of the things we're going to do some studies that are similar to his work, and we're going to follow his rules. And then I have two modifications of those, and we'll see, how this comes forth. So I'm going to share my screen with you so that we can look at some of his work. He was Dutch, he was very lots of let's do this. I got this for you because it's just a little more fun, even though, hold on. So he, we're not going to watch it on YouTube video. This is essentially his work is known for being these geometric lines and shapes. He was very specific. So some of the restrictions that we're going to have today in some of our paintings are going to be, he believed very much in only using the primary colors. So I have my primary yellow, I have my primary blue, and my primary red in front of me. As you know, I have mentioned before, I don't often paint with these colors. So I have kind of like the student set. Um, we're allowed to use white and black and gray. The other restriction or belief that he had, and he believed that they weren't called abstract artists at that point. He believed that the people who were studying this kind of work with him and the previous cubists, that in order to kind of create this otherworldly conversation and or I guess language, that you that these were the colors of that. Then the other thing that he believed was that you could make decisions, because remember, this is about decision making and making better decisions when we are painting abstract works, that you could make lines that either were horizontal or vertical. So that is where the geometric nature of his work comes into play. Here are some things as we're doing this study that we want to think about. You know, the golden mean, the golden ratio has been around in science for a long time. And a lot of artists believe in the concept that there are specific scientific ratios that make work more beautiful. I think that Pete was not only, or I think it might be Pet, but anyway, Mondrian was not only focused on the primary colors in black and white and this idea that you could only go vertical or you could only go horizontal, but he also had an understanding of the idea of the ratios. So when you look at his work and you look at the choices, here's the thing. This is going to look much easier than it actually is, because we're going to create our lines for ourselves, and then we're going to make decisions about where color is laid down. However, decisions, you can have too much of a color, you can have too little of a color. You have to really be thinking about the ratios. We're going to start with his color scheme. We're going to start with Mondrian's color scheme. We're going to start by creating a grid, a series of lines using verticals and horizontals for ourselves. And then we're going to make the choices about where we color that in. I want you guys to think while you're doing this, because it's going to take a little longer to do this kind of work because it's a little more detail oriented. So be thinking about how these decisions, and similarly, Agnes Martin worked in grid in the same way, how these decisions will affect the end composition. You want to be looking at how you're doing your lines. You want to be considering how you're going to use your color. And then what we're going to do is we're going to modify our composition using the viewfinder that we talked about previously. And we're going to look at potential of other color schemes and how does his connection to the primary colors truly affect whether or not this is a good painting. This is going to be one of the ones that what I would like you to do is we're going to spend some time working on the grid because that's the hardest part. And I would like you to take a picture of your grid and send it to the WhatsApp. You can look at each other's grids and see the decisions, because this is all about spending some time after each decision so that we are basically making our own abstract art muscle memory. So I taped off my paper today. I used square paper today just to make it easier for myself. I have a ruler here and I have a pencil here. I tend to work in pencil first, and then I have two options. I can cheat and use my favorite black acrylic Posca marker, which has a flat head, which makes it great if this is the exact thickness that I want of the lines. Or I also have some other brushes so that I can work on my lines that way. And then, like I said, the second step will be deciding what is the ratio of color, how much are you putting, how little are you going to put. Don't be afraid to only put one or two squares and really contemplate what the openness of the painting is going to do. And then we're going to work on modifying it and changing it to suit our needs. Does that make sense for everyone? Okay. If anybody has any questions, because I know that we're going to be doing a lot of hard thinking work today in comparison to maybe other classes, feel free to ask the questions or write them in the box or write them in WhatsApp. Let's start with doing some grids. Does anybody need to see more of Piet's works or more of Mondrian's work so that you understand what we're doing more clearly?
All I want to say is that I've heard stories that Mondrian would rearrange his fucking hotel room if it didn't like
what? Oh, rearrange it.
Furniture in his hotel room. If it
I heard actually
lines, he was kind of like obsessive.
He believed that he was speaking a higher language. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That it was almost like he was communicating with God. I think that we can help train the analytical skills in our brain, which are really necessary for abstract art, by doing some of these super detailed, kind of difficult tasks. I think it's really easy to make a bunch of
and this is
stuff
that you're teaching in the roaming. This is why I love that you're teaching in the roaming studio, because that's where it's at. Understanding ratios. I'm excited about this. Like, so.
I think it's interesting that because he's not actually one of my favorite artists. He's not like, it's not like I have his work in my house or anything like that. I just think that he.
Don't you wish you did?
I know, right? I'd have some fucking valuable stuff in my house.
Money.
So it's real. We have his work to reference here. We have other Cubist work to reference here. We have a lot of artists who really like stuck in this geometrical stuff. He didn't really, because it didn't really exist yet. It wasn't really a style of artwork yet. It was definitely still at a time that was very, very, very representational.
Right.
I mean, we got to realize he was painting in 1872. That's when he was born. So we're talking the late 1800s, early 1900s, you know, that's a very different time period. I also think a lot about this work because I'm a huge Agnes Martin fan.
Ah, yes.
I really love the way that Agnes believes, she was a super perfectionist, which I'm not. It's always good for me to work with a little more perfectionist. Um, she really did believe in just waiting, and that God would tell her, what she was supposed to paint next. I think that's a very interesting contemplation. You all have to pardon me. I have been socializing a lot over the last week, and I'm an introvert, which means that I'm very exhausted, and I'm sorry for everyone.
You must be exhausted.
I am blown
No.
out. But
All right, girl, don't worry. You are just fine.
Krista, have you seen Mondrian's work in person?
no, I haven't.
That's fantastic. I'm not like a 20th century modern art person in general, but
Yeah.
his work is really fantastic in person. And he was the king of masking tape.
Yep.
In fact, it's still on his unfinished paintings. So all those straight lines that are in his paintings, he taped it.
Oh, no doubt. When I do straight lines in my paintings, I tape. I actually
Yeah.
enough to have tape that's different sizes now, So I sometimes think tape may be the only way to really do it.
Well, that's how he did it. So,
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there in case anybody wants to use tape and get straight lines without going insane.
Yeah, right. I actually have a see-through ruler, and I'm going to tell you that it's a game changer. It has been, because you can see how everything actually lines up a lot more clearly. It is strangely, and the numbers on it are in a strange order, which always makes that part difficult, but
It's crooked. It's fucking crooked like a motherfucker.
this is where it's gonna take some time.
Is the name of this class.
Okay.
Crooked like a motherfucker.
Oh God, sorry, you guys. I've got my mic on, don't I?
I could totally see myself using
Shit.
that as the
I'm
act.
so sorry.
Laugh, so.
Crooked. That is a great abstract.
Crooked like a motherfucker.
Hey,
Thank
you. Who do you think has the best Mondrian collection in New York? Is it MoMA, or does one of the other museums have kind of more pieces that we don't know about? I'm assuming you would know the answer to this question. You're muted, Lovey. Unmute yourself.
Thanks, babe. Sorry. I'm not sure. I saw a Mondrian retrospective show from his early work through unfinished paintings when he died. His progression as an artist through life was actually really astounding.
Oh,
He did not start out doing these things. He started out, he had formal training in representational art. And then he started going abstract from there, and he started doing like these plus minus paintings. His series of trees, which is older work of his, they're like my favorite work of him. And then he started going into the geometric stuff, and his unfinished paintings, like you can see the progression. I think if you look at one of his early ones, I don't know the title, but then there's one called Broadway Boogie Woogie. It's like so vibrant, and it's like the grid of Manhattan. And it's just like, wow, it blows you away. Even if you're not into like geometric abstract art, he's really got something going. I know that MoMA should have some of his stuff. I don't know if the Met does either, because I don't really hang out in the 20th century galleries too often. I can go check if you want. I can go check at the Met and see what they have. I don't feel like going to MoMA. They want $25. I'm not doing it.
Ooh.
If you had the inside track, if it doesn't come easy and obvious, that's not you. You don't have to. But if you run across it, I always think that's helpful to know who has the best one. Sometimes it's MoMA, sometimes it's the other, museums around. Who has the great Hopper collection? It's not the MoMA. They were doing a bunch of renovations on it.
There are hoppers at the Met.
There are hoppers at the Met, but there's another gallery. Why can't I remember the name? It just opened in its new location down on the water. Oh, where is it? I can picture the block in the street and I can't.
Whitney.
The Whitney, thank you.
The Whitney is,
Favorite.
yeah, I haven't been there for a while.
It's expensive now, I know. I know it's
It's
like
all really expensive. Yeah.
expensive, but I feel like they sometimes have these contemporary collections that can, and they show them in a different way. Like they kind of, their history, they're one of my secret favorite museums just for contemporary. I love MoMA, who doesn't? But like,
I don't.
and yeah, you go and then you're like,
That's it. Honestly, I used to go to MoMA a lot when I was in college. And I went there a couple years ago with my friend because she came in from out of town and she wanted to go see Starry Night. So we went to MoMA. It was like exactly the same as it was when I was in college.
that's what I think. So like, I feel like I never get tired of going to the Met. The Met is changing all the time, but like
Yeah.
kind of boring. And the Whitney, particularly because of all of the collections it has and because of the renovation it's gone through, it's just like seems to be more. Sometimes you can get better stuff there.
I think that MoMA should move all the Van Goghs to the Met. I think they should just give it to them because it's not 20th century. It's not modern art. It doesn't fall into their category, but it's the one everybody goes to see. It's their revenue generation.
Yeah, they're not giving up their money.
Yeah, they're never gonna let go of that shit.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't fit in with their
No kidding.
with their vision though. It belongs with its friends at the Met.
That's an interesting observation.
I think that the Whitney curates better shows.
Yes,
Yeah.
but they have gotten very expensive. The new building is not half as fun to me.
Right.
I know. The new, the old, the old, the old. Why don't we do open studios every 2 weekends? Why do we have to do blah, blah, blah? Anyway, yes, everybody's like a critic.
I'm actually surprised that he used masking tape so much because I know a lot of people who do grids and stuff do chalk lines. I think that is insanity to me. But what do I know? This is why I don't do work that is perfectionist work.
Well, it makes it easy to paint it on the canvas without having to worry about your edges. So he would tape right onto the canvas.
Yeah.
And then just paint within the tape lines and then pull the tape off. You got a nice clean edge.
And you get the reveal. Let's be
You
real.
get that's the best part always.
Hands down the best part.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, if you want to take a look, Carissa's starting to send pictures across, and we'd like to see your grids too as you get them.
I can already tell that I will get obsessive over the thickness of some of these, the paint in these squares, and wanting it to be, I don't know, perfect and settled. So that would be probably detrimental to me. I would never finish. I would just be stuck here doing layers and layers and layers of paint.
Come on, come here. Come here, baby. Our little pets are very gratifying to us. It is nice that they miss us.
Yeah. The dogs were definitely not in the studio all weekend. And my dog, the second night, she was like trying to crawl in bed with me.
Oh, interesting, Leslie. I like your purple tape, by the way.
The best tape to get.
What was that?
I like your purple tape. I like
Oh,
it.
thank you. I have many tapes.
My purple tape doesn't stick very well.
Oh.
Oh, is it light purple or dark purple?
It's light. I guess it's supposed to, you know, come off easily, which it does. But
Yeah. That is my preferred tape. But I can see what you're saying. I treat my paper with clear gesso, which gives it more tooth.
Yeah.
And it seems to bind better.
oh, see, I was thinking that's why mine doesn't, because I treated my paper with clear gesso and it just doesn't seem to stick to it.
Huh. Mine usually tends to sometimes stick almost too much to it. So who knows? I mean, I could also be getting some weird off-brand and not even realize. Let's be honest about that.
This tape sticks really well, and I didn't gesso this paper, but it rips it when I take it off. Oops.
It has green tape. Wow.
Yeah.
That's just regular painter's tape, and I did white gesso on mine, so.
Interesting. It's good to see everybody. Look at how you're all doing the same assignment, but it's coming out so different.
It's funny because when you think about the basics of the assignment, it would seem that it would all be very similar.
But it's not looking that way.
No. And it definitely makes me think of like, where is the eye drawn to, you know? How can you change the viewer's experience? Very interesting placement.
I know the eye likes yellow and hard edges.
No doubt.
The eye goes to yellow or the closest to yellow.
I used to not really paint with yellow.
Yeah, you've said that. I heard. I know you said that. I love it.
It just wasn't a color, I guess, that spoke to me the same, you know. I have since moved beyond that.
Well, you're a red girl at your base. Red is that fluorescent red. That's what I think of.
It's true. Oh yes, let's look at everybody's. Thank you everybody for sending in pictures. Oh, Jeannie, you're just pumping out those grids.
Damn.
Well, they're
I
small.
love it.
They're all small.
Hey, that's the, like, that's the way to do it though. I went big because it was what I already had prepped and eat, from my weekend. So, but I think it's way better just to do it small, and then you can kind of count it out. Oh, speaking of interesting things, for my 40th birthday, my partner hit up the old rare books collection and got me an oversized double book version of Alber's book. So one is full size print,
Ooh.
No,
and then the one actual words in the book. And as somebody who has read the other version, it's way easier to look at in the, like, it's huge. The book is like this big. It's giant. Definitely got stuck in customs for quite a bit.
Krista, are you in any way capable of answering? If I was to ask you what was the best story that came from Open Studios weekend, could you answer it? Or are you still like,
I mean, that's a complicated question because the 2 days were very different, What do
Yeah.
you mean by best story?
I don't know, like what was the neatest thing that happened?
People really liked having the DJ. They really, we also had Bubbles, our studio assistant is a grade school librarian. So we had a bubble machine outside of our studio.
That's awesome.
And it was people, like, the happiness and joy in people's faces when they encounter a bubble machine for no reason, or for no reason that they expect, was really wonderful to experience. The number of children that played in it, the assurance that it gave people that they could come inside,
Isn't that interesting? I could totally see that.
Yeah, it was a real attractant, I would say. I really was glad that we had it, and it was wonderful just to experience it. Also, like, interestingly, I haven't personally spent enough time staring at bubbles reflecting on concrete as the sun shines through them. Each bubble has a colored ring that is a different color than the bubble next to it. So they create a rainbow of circles on the ground.
Amazing.
That is so cool.
Right? I'm telling you, it's something to experience for a little bit. And it really had me reflecting a lot, like, on the simple joys of connection with community. People loved the live painting, of course. It's funny how freaked out they can get about talking to you while you're doing it, though. They're like, "Can I talk to you?" And it's like, "Yeah, come talk to me."
Right.
We had a great time.
I love this idea.
Geez, I wish I had that problem.
Right?
Nobody's freaked out about talking to me when I'm out painting.
Hey, you're like a tourist attraction, Jess.
I'm not a tourist attraction. Regardless of what people think, I am definitely not.
It reminds me of the Instagram famous dog Bunny who uses the buttons. They had to get her a collar that says "Do not pet." You need a sign or a T-shirt that says "Do not talk to me."
Yeah.
No, I won't do that because I'm out there representing all artists, and you have to be friendly.
I disagree with that entirely.
I do too.
Representing me. That's the thing.
Well, I mean,
You're
art
not
in
responsible
general.
for other people's feelings.
No, I'm not responsible for other people's feelings, but it is a thing. Like, it might be the only exposure to an artist that somebody ever encounters. And if
that's a good
that
point.
message is negative, it's not nice.
You're working. And if your workspace happens to be plein air, I mean, that is your workspace, you're still working. Mind you, I don't get that problem, and I'm a plein air painter. I never get bothered by people.
You will in New York City.
I don't live in New York City, and I never intend to.
I embraced it. I decided to embrace it because I'm part of the environment, and as an artist and as a human being, like, people are genuinely interested and they're nice, like, except for that one lady the other day. but like people are nice and they don't have to come over and say something nice. They don't owe me anything, and they do. And that's really a humbling, nice thing. And I want to honor that and respect that. And the way I can do that is, you know, to be nice to somebody who comes up to me because they want to be nice to me. You don't want to be mean in return. Also, the sign wouldn't work.
Make come over and talk to you. It's an interesting question though, because what I was thinking was, as Krista was talking about the bubble machine, is how hard it is to get people to understand art is for them. And there is, like, I remember, so Krista lives in a seaside town, which is packed full of tourists during the holidays, like right now during the summers. And so you get a lot of, you just get a huge cross section of people. I have a gallery in another seaside town, not far from where Krista lives in Seaside. And it's a nice gallery. And I remember I was dropping off paintings there. And I saw a mother and the kids were like wanting to go into the gallery. And the mother said, "That's not for you. That's not for us." Turned around, she walks down the street.
Oh,
Can't be seen or something like that. And it wasn't anything the gallery owner was doing. It wasn't anything, but people think art is not for them. And
I think that lady thought maybe it wasn't for her kids.
no, I think it's not for her. She was like, "It's too expensive for us," is what she said. Too expensive for us. And I'm like, you know, that's like for people who have a lot of money. She was, you know, that's kind of what she was saying.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, like if there is something in there you could afford, but it's not necessarily about buying. It's about going in and looking, right? It's about going in and checking it out. And I thought how little people think they have that they don't have access to art. You know,
I also think that there's not enough children's books about art. And I don't mean like famous artists. I mean, so our studio assistant's a librarian, and it has brought in children because they want to see Miss Tammy and they want to see the work that Miss Tammy is making, right? And she got me a book called Nico Draws His Feelings, and it's about abstract art. And it made me think a lot. And then, you know, she was like, "I'm going to put it in my school or put it in my library." And I was thinking to myself, like, we need more of that. We need more books that explore art accessibility for children.
Yeah.
I used to do workshops for kids, art journaling workshops. And it was like, the whole point of the workshop was like, you get to do whatever you want in this book. It could be any kind of thing you want, you know. We're going to go through some things, but.
I'm sorry. I thought you were done, Krista.
What were we going to say?
I was just going to say, I think it's really important. I was exposed to a lot of culture as a kid from a really young age. My mother took us everywhere. My dad, when we lived in Germany, we saw every castle, every piece of, I mean, you name it, we did it. And then when we got back, my mother was always going to First Thursday back in the day before they even had it, but she was always taking me to galleries. We went to the art museum or the library every weekend, you know.
Yeah.
It just, or I was in classes all the time. My brothers were too. I took, you know, stained glass, ceramics, jewelry making, you name it.
I did not know
That's
that.
when he wasn't yelling at me for saying fuck. I'm sorry. What was that, Leah?
I had no idea your mother did that for you. I did not know that. That's
Oh yeah, totally.
interesting.
Totally. Especially in Germany, it was great. We did a lot of stuff. And we always had art books in the house.
I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
You know, I have been giving my nieces art books because my mom did not expose us to art. And I have been sending them, and I sent my one just graduated from 8th grade, and the other one is 17, and I sent them original pieces of artwork. And it was like, here is your first piece of artwork in your own collection. You get to determine what that collection looks like. Nobody else gets to determine for you, you know?
It's even the idea that you can be a collector.
Yeah.
Big jump for many people.
Yeah.
So that it's expensive. What it requires is time and attention. And I think that is what people, I don't want to say it's in short supply. I want to say it's something that has to be inculcated in a person to seek it out, right?
Mhm.
Not something you can answer in a 30-second video. You can't like do a meme or a soundbite. It's something that it's like takes time and patience, as you all know as artists, that you have to spend the time doing it, right? And continually doing it. Oh, Krister's having fun with her marker, showing off your marker. Nice marker.
Okay.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
And Jeannie's grids. I got to get some more grids going.
But it's an interesting idea. This idea, what the thing is, art is the long game always. And that's the hard thing, right? Art and culture, they're the long game. You've got to build bricks of knowledge. You've got to like spend time with it. It's so that, you know, everything you can see that art lens. I think a lot of people don't have that, and I think they want it. They don't know how to get it. You know, they don't know how to start it.
Yeah.
Making things accessible.
Well, it's you know, my mom didn't work, you know,
Right.
just because it was easier then. I mean, she did when we got older. She went back to nursing school, but you know that makes a difference. She probably did it to keep herself sane. You know, let's get out of the house. But
There were 3 of you, right? There's 3 of you, 4 of you.
yeah, and I was threes, me and my 2 older brothers.
Yeah.
And everybody can draw in my family.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And if you ever go to Leslie's house, you'll see art everywhere. Leslie is one of the first people I met on the Portland art scene when I got here. That's probably true.
Yeah.
Well, I'm new at some.
I think so. We met really early on. Yeah.
At some show, looking at something.
That's actually like when they talk about knowing your market as an art business. New collectors are always a big market for me. They love to buy my work. They connect with it. Something about them, it engages them. And then it starts like, then it like seems to start a ball rolling.
Yeah.
They just, you know.
But I
have a huge art collection.
I do too.
But you have to get them in, you know, you have to get them in. Like you have to get them to see this is for them. This is not something online. This is something you walk into. And it's intimidating. So even these classes are giving a wonderful sort of vocabulary to everybody who's taking them on how to talk about art, how to think about it.
That's one of the best things about teaching classes is especially if you get students who are new to artwork, it teaches them how to collect.
Yeah.
It teaches them what's good.
Yeah. And how to just talk about it.
Yeah.
And how to talk about it. I remember one of the people who first taught me how to read about art and talk about art, because I never went to art school, was a guy I met in Budapest when I was living there. So that was like, I was in my mid 30s. His name is Lotto Pochkwa. He's a Georgian dude, and his wife is American, Elizabeth. They now live in Brooklyn. But Lotto read he's a refugee from a part of Georgia that now is under Russian control. And he was a total intellectual guy. So when she went to Cincinnati, where she's from, to go to grad school, he went to the library every day and read every single book. He couldn't believe it, like the kind of luck he would have. And so by the time I met them, they'd been married a while. He'd been reading. He was an artist. We became friends. And we had this American friend. And I swear, and Lotto could at any point talk about any artist or any piece of history just because he read all the time. And I remember this American artist looking at him and going, young woman, going, how do you know all this? And he said, I read. And what book do you read? What book do you read? And he's like, I read a fucking library of books. Like, and you could see that in her mind, she's like trying to figure out how does he know what he knows? And I'm like, you got to sit in the University of, Cincinnati's library and read all the fucking books that are there. Like, this is long game. None of this is short game. This is all long game. Krista has read her book on what's his name, and now you're going to read it again in the bigger expanded version, right? Like it's
interactive though, because they have like parts, like, so it's Albert's plates that show the different, you're Joseph Albert's plates that you're learning about how colors basically align, bitch.
right.
And different ones have parts that like lift up, which they definitely didn't do in the tiny little book that I originally read. And it's really useful instead of to be reading, because Joseph Albers writes in a way that's very short, succinct, one page, explains it, moves on. You're flipping between that and the plates in the back, the reference section, comparing the plates to what he's telling you. Reading it book to book and just looking at the plates with the information next to it, it's a game changer.
It's a game changer, but it's long game.
Yeah.
It's a game changer. It changes it from what's the crib notes, where's the cliff notes where I can find out all this stuff, and it's, oh, just try living under a Soviet regime where you couldn't get any information for 18 years. The moment you fucking can get into a library, you read thing that's there. That's long game, right? This is like how we want everybody to be, to understand about art. So once they get in, once you crack that door open, then it's whatever else it is to keep you there, right? But it's always thinking, how is this? How are these? How do I think about this? What are the ways? Why do we look at other artists? All of it.
I got lots of really interesting color theory books for my birthday. I got a Japanese one that shows color combinations from Japan. And it's very interesting to see. We don't think necessarily, I think a lot of people believe that color is, we have the circle tells us how color interacts. We don't consider cultural relationships of color. Honestly, primary colors are very Dutch in general. And so it's not a surprising jump or leap that these would be the colors that were chosen. So it was very interesting. It's very interesting to have a Japanese book and see the colors that they choose and put together. And sometimes I look at them and I just think to myself, I would never have thought about that color choice.
Yeah.
I also interesting one from Harvard Press that is all about rare pigments, and that book is very interesting as well.
And also how imagery kind of plays across different cultures at different times.
Yep.
From my time in living in Eastern Europe, what I really noticed was any artist that had gone through the Soviet Union had gone through, like, before breakup of the Soviet Union and through the Soviet Union, who had dealt with some kind of repression, right? Like some kind of repression about who they were. They all were they were using a lot of old family photos where parts were obscured. And everybody was doing it differently, and many, many different ways of doing this. But it was interesting to me that pretty much everywhere I went, I saw these like old family photos with parts scratched out and stuff and I was like, oh yeah, it's like there's whole pieces of your life that you don't even know because they were either repressed or put in a box or somebody didn't talk about. I had a friend in Hungary whose grandmother was Jewish. I remember her saying to me something like, Hungary didn't hurt the Jews in World War II. Hungary protected the Jews. And that's actually completely untrue. I mean, at the beginning, yes, but at the end, they actually built ramps at Auschwitz to get all the Hungarian Jews on as much as possible. And she was like, what? And then it turns out her grandmother was Jewish. And her grandfather was Jewish, and they somehow survived and never spoke about being Jewish. And then they were dead, and she had no history on that side of the family of what happened to those people, who they were, because they wouldn't talk about it.
strangely, this whole thing about Jewish people who went through the Holocaust and don't talk about it, because that's culturally how a lot of people dealt with that trauma. There is this new Netflix special that Dave Grohl from Nirvana did. He like produces, where he brings his mom and he meets different musicians and he meets their moms. And the whole thing is about the relationship between musicians and their moms, like super moms that are part of their relationship. I watched it. Brandy Carlisle is one of my favorites, and she was one of the artists that he interviewed. But they interviewed the guitarist or the drummer from Rush, whose mom survived the Holocaust.
Wow.
And they interviewed the mom, and he and his brother and sister maybe are talking about how their parents survived the Holocaust together. They met and got married afterwards, but talking about how their father never spoke about the Holocaust, but their mother did, and how rare it was that they got historical knowledge of her experience during the Holocaust straight from her mouth.
Right.
That's really rare.
Right.
Very interesting interview with him and her,
Because it's pretty traumatizing. Because it's weird because you think Jewish people talk all the time. I mean, my understanding of Jewish people is they talk all the fucking time, and you can't get us to shut up. But it's interesting that group. Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty significant, terrible experience. And if you were Hungarian so Andrea wasn't raised Jewish in any way because her mother hated it and her grandmother hated it. And so she has no idea what happened to those people. I mean, I said to her, look, Andrea, there's a park where they gathered up all the Jewish men at the very end of World War II, and they left them there for 2 days. And whoever didn't die from malnutrition, not eating or drinking, they put on the train to go up. And she went, but my grandfather survived. And I'm like, well, did you ask like how he survived? She had no idea. Just no idea.
Isn't Hungary also the country that they just released that sculpture of, or I think maybe I just randomly ran across the sculpture of a bunch of children being swooped up and gassed, and it's like a huge sculpture of all of this.
It was bad. The Hungarians had a lot of collective denial and sort of like, what did I do? What did I not do? It was a very strange country to live in. They're very depressive people, and they just kind of block out whatever they're not interested in a different way than in a very sort of specific way. Like, anyway, it was interesting. So like, there's like, what I noticed across the board was anybody who had any interaction with that communist era, they in some way had a missing piece, and it kept showing up in the art. As like people became free, it showed up in the art. In Armenia, Karista, you would love the Armenian artists because they have these screaming reds in all their, like it's a defining characteristic of Armenian art. I don't know why. I think they're built on kind of a red rock. The land is kind of built on a red rock. That's always my thought about it.
Thanks to red pigment.
Yeah, but like when I would go from country to country, I could see like a color would pop out, sometimes a notion, an idea. Like, it's interesting how those ideas kind of filter through, and I would be interesting to hear what a non-American would say about
American
artists, like, because I'm sure there's like some observations there too. Besides the fact that we're, I don't know, we don't have enough skill, we're not trained enough, and blah blah, whatever it is. Like,
I'm gonna get back to this real quick, real quick, because I want to show this next part. Sorry, I'm moving this and it's a disaster. So I have quickly done these. These are definitely not high quality, so do not judge my technical skill by looking at this ridiculous painting. But
we judge thee.
Right? You are judged. But what I do want to suggest,
thou art judged, woman.
I want to bring up that kind of same idea that we'd previously talked about with the viewfinders, and how, you can train yourself to do better compositions by looking at them in different kinds of scales. And oh, of course, I dropped it in the paint because why wouldn't I? So I have these two pieces of L paper again, which are just secretly cut offs from an art project I did that I use as my viewfinder. I want to encourage you. So I have two of these that I did. You know, there's one there. Looks like that. I'll send you a picture of it now that I've got it out. And then there's one here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my viewfinders, and I'm actually going to go through the painting that I've created and change the scale perspective and kind of addressing like, how does it change how I feel about the work, right? Because you're going to cut off parts. You're not going to get the same composition where you have them all together. It can change how would I make a different decision moving forward. You know, as what we're working on right now is skill building decision making. What would it mean if it was just a tiny bit of yellow up in the corner and a bunch of red, you know? So what I want you to do to consider after you finish one or two of these is spend a little bit of time looking at secondary secondary compositions using your viewfinder. And then what I want you guys to consider as we're hitting our second hour here, you know, this is kind of tedious work, so I'm just giving you kind of a heads up. The next thing I want you to do is change the color scheme. You're going to look for 3 different colors, 3 colors that you're drawn to, 3 colors that are part of your vocabulary, not Mondrian's vocabulary, and use them in the same manner. So you're going to create a grid for them still. You're still going to be looking at what decisions am I making about how much of each color I'm using? How are those colors relating to each other? But I want you to ask yourself the question, if I change up the colors, does it change the impact of the work? Okay. So that's going to be the exercise we work on the second half. And then do the same thing with the viewfinder. Once you've created your second color set, when you're looking through it and you're deciding whether or not it's more impactful with the primaries or it's more impactful with the colors that you've chosen because they make your heart sing, consider also looking at it through the viewfinder and seeing if different compositions of those colors change how you feel about it. This really is like checking in with yourself and being like, what does this make me feel? How is this something that I want to move forward? I've got this weird color scheme I'm trying to work with right now, and I just can't seem to make it work, but in my heart, it works. It's interesting how that can happen, you know, and sometimes it's just, you know, roll of the dice really, but so that's what we're going to do the second hour. So finish your first half with the regular primaries and then work on some secondary options for yourself. Does that sound reasonable to everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was on mute and I'm banging around. I apologize for being noisy.
I didn't hear you.
I didn't hear you either.
Oh, thank goodness. Leah, you there?
I think she walked off.
She walked off. Oh, okay.
Literally just get home from her trip before this class. So we've got a lot going on.
Well, I'm glad you didn't hear me making noise.
I would have judged you.
Again, you should have. Absolutely should have. As you should have. Mm-hmm. I would expect nothing else.
I'm going to take your nice artist badge away.
Not my artist badge. Jean, I'm going to steal yours.
I know. I actually have Patch's Bad Kids Art Club, and that feels
It's amazing.
Love it.
I love it. Krista took my art badge. So sad. It's
really
amazing. No, I know. You should be.
Yeah, I should.
Yeah.
This is really interesting to redo this with the viewfinders because I find different dimensions to be really impactful. Who knew? Be right. Okay. I'm back.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
Everyone behaved while you were gone. I'm really disappointed.
Seriously, adults behaving. I like it.
I was gone too.
I know. We asked about where you had gone off to, and I said that you'd just gotten home from your trip and you probably had some things you needed to do.
Right.
Leah, did you get your electric eraser?
Not yet. It's on the list.
What is an electric eraser?
Oh my God.
Best thing in the world. It will revolutionize your art life. I thought they were the stupidest thing until I got one.
I've never.
And then
used
I understand.
them.
Krista, you love it. You can get little hard, like light lines in your, in your pencil drawings. Oh my God, you need an electric eraser. Will you turn it on, Jess, just so she can see it? It always makes the most hilarious noise, but
Yeah, it sounds like a vibrator.
Yeah, let me see it. I'm into it.
vibrator.
How do
Ready.
you know what a vibrator sounds
Hear
like?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How small is that? And it looks pretty like, yeah.
It gets you right down to the surface of the paper. But the reason it's cool is because there's no like arm friction. It's like a lighter touch, so it doesn't damage your paper and it gets everything off.
Changing my
It
life.
you know, because all the pastel people talk about them. And I said, I don't need that. I have all the erasers. I have the little pencil one, like the ones that look like a pencil, but it's an eraser instead of graphite. I have the like mechanical pencil-y like erasers. I got all the erasers. I said, that's so stupid, an electric eraser. This is a Derwent. And then I got one because I just caved because people were just raving about it so much. And my life changed like completely. It's that good. It's just, you need it. You need it in your life.
I'm gonna get you watch.
Yeah. Jean, you got one, right?
But I haven't used it yet.
Girl.
Gotta try stuff out. Gotta make some mistakes so that you
Yeah, whip it out at the next.
Well, you can use it as a drawing tool as well, especially in subtractive drawing if you're like doing like either like a graphite back and you're pulling out your lights. It's just fantastic.
Why does the second color scheme feel like such a huge decision?
It is a huge decision. I think it is.
Weird. We're gonna see if this works and decide.
It's a Derwent. It's Derwent, right? Just
Yeah, I have a Derwent.
electric eraser. I might
Yeah,
look into that.
pretty
now.
fantastic.
I'm willing to try it. I mean,
Oh, you'll love it.
I wished I had had it for last week's lesson on Thursday, right, Jean? That would have been helpful.
Oh, yeah.
We were
What
doing-
was last? I missed Thursday. What happened?
Well, I had them draw what Emma had them paint the week before, which was a pier in the water with a tree. And it was
I sent, Jessica, it's the drawing I sent you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Jean, you did a beautiful job on that.
did an amazing job on that, absolutely. But I felt that the electric eraser would have been really helpful.
You're helpful for everything.
Jessica, how quickly do you go through the refills? I'm just looking on it on Amazon.
Not very, surprisingly.
Good.
In fact, I've still like mine is battery powered and not USB charged. If I had to buy one today, I'd probably get a USB charged one. But I don't go I mean, it depends on how much you use it, but mine is I haven't even really had to change the batteries. I think I use it a fair bit. The refills are cheap anyhow. It's not these things are not a major investment.
Yeah, it's saying it's $12.99 in Canadian
Yeah.
dollars. Okay, so
It's cheap. It's
Right. So I went with this weekend. I did this, like I was saying, this painting performance, and I was performing with a DJ who does like electronic music, and then he plays his saxophone like live with the music.
nice.
It's an experience in and of itself. So I created a color scheme that I felt was reflective of the experience. And so we're just going to continue with that color scheme for our second round of these paintings and see what kind of interesting impact it makes. It definitely speaks of the fact that that I was an 80s child.
Right.
So I'm going to ask about Andy Warhol. They just opened up an exhibit in Toronto and I saw it on Friday. So what do you think of him as an artist? Because I see him as more of a commercial artist. He was very good at the business and he was talented.
I think
He was a commercial artist, yeah.
Was it Gordon Schnitzer's collection?
Yeah.
So that collection is really interesting. So Andy Warhol was a commercial artist.
Yeah.
I think though, I think part of what he was trying to do was establish this notion that commercial art can still be fine art. I was impacted, and I don't know if the exhibit you saw had some of his photography, some of his explicit gay male photography.
Yeah, it did.
And the fact that it had his early drawings, like from his the very beginning.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting. You see his technical skill. You see that he has an eye. He clearly has taste. And I was blown away by the gay male erotica photos. I think Jordan Snooker's got like a set where only 4 exist. Only 4 prints were made. I'm always interested in the concept of what does printing something as a print do to the value of the piece? What does that mean? I mean, this conversation came up a lot. That exhibit made me feel more interested in Andy Warhol's work than I was before I went to it. Maybe because I saw historical context, and historical context matters to me.
Yeah.
I loved his drawings. Like his drawings of the sneakers are some of my favorite.
Flippers.
Oh, I didn't see those. Okay.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite parts was the shoe drawings.
Shoe
I'm
drawings.
gonna Google it. Okay.
I think some of his stuff, just like everybody has a long history and then a thing that he got famous for. There's, like we talk about this. Hopefully, we're going to get to study Lee Krasner soon. I'm assuming at some point, Krista, we will look at her work as we go through.
No, she's my boo.
Look at right. So we're waiting till we can get like she's but Lee Krasner is probably was known first off. I mean, she had this long history as an artist and
insanely skilled and taught. She had been through lots of art schools and things like that.
Yes, although she was a Jewish lady whose family was like, yeah, fuck you and fuck art. And she kind of went, I'm going to be an artist in the 30s, in the 20s and the 30s. She was kind of struggling to make it. And, like what people would say is, oh, Lee Krasner, wasn't she married to Jackson Pollock? Right? Like, but that's like, so you'll always know that an artist, when they got to where they got to, has like their steps for getting where they get to.
Well, I will say this though about Lee Krasner. When you look up early abstract art, she's one of the few female artists that is consistently notated. And I think that, I mean, her work is incredible. I did a project about Lee Krasner. You know,
These are coming along.
study her. It's going to be a bit.
I like that, Leslie. Can you
Oh,
take,
thanks.
I like it.
I don't have my viewfinder or a viewfinder. Thanks. And I can't find my T-square, and I'm not moving
Totally understand.
fast enough to make one I just want to paint.
Just do it.
Thanks, Teach.
There's lots of other ways to paint. That's the best part.
I want to
Yeah.
paint, darling.
I do want to say one thing about the Andy Warhol thing. This is just something. Do you follow Ashley Longshore at all?
Who?
Because
Say that again.
Ashley, she's considered to be the current Andy Warhol.
Oh, you gotta spell it. I couldn't catch it. Well, how do you spell it?
Ashley, and then her last name is Longshore. It's Longshore.
I just
Oh,
The
okay.
culture. She's from New Orleans. She has her, if you ever get to listen to a podcast by her, she's incredible because she's really smart business-wise, similarly to the way that Warhol was running his art career as a business. He was very business-minded. She talks about how, you know, she produces her own work and she sells her own work. She has the highest profit for it, but she also pays her staff six figures. Her salespeople get 6 figures. She's, you know, she very much commits to hiring people to help her with her work, but culturally, she's crazy and flamboyant and loud, and her, you know, online presence. And she's breaking some glass ceilings that are really interesting. She got the Bergdorf artist in residency. She was the first female artist to ever get it, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my entire life. But now
That's the most, well, good
she's ballsy.
for her.
Yeah, she's great. She uses
Sorry, I'm interrupting.
her work, very pop culture, and it's interesting to hear how often she is referred to, you know, similar to Andy Warhol.
Does she feel too similar to Andy Warhol?
I don't think that she probably feels bothered by it. I think that what she does, though, she gets a couple of really good ideas. She's a self-taught painter and a freaking really good one for being self-taught. She gets ideas and definitely reuses them like Andy did, you know, and you kind of, you see the thing that works and then you reproduce it in a bunch of different ways. So she did these paintings that were about Lil Wayne. They had Lil Wayne's face and they were huge, and so she just constantly does a lot of them. She does these like Audrey Hepburn stuff. But it's been interesting to see how her career, which started as these paintings that sell for $20,000 or $40,000 a piece, and then she commissions these large sculptures that go with this like flamboyant artwork that she's creating. And it's interesting to see how she's going into new areas. She did a live painting during Fashion Week, during one of the fashion walks, one of the lines,
Interesting.
and wore the clothes that the models were walking in and did a live paint. And this like fearless connection of where art belongs.
Yeah.
She believes it belongs everywhere, you know? Very interesting.
I'm looking at it right now. Ah,
She's
Say her name again, Carista.
I put it in the chat. Ashley Longshore.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you have some time, Danielle Krishna from Dell's Curator did a couple of interviews with her that are really good.
She has a painting which has a little sign that says "fuck the Rona" on it.
That's great.
She made these sculptural cakes that said, made you Google bukkake. And she made these, which don't Google it, you don't want to. But her humor is very interesting in her work. And she's like, superstars love to collect her, famous actors and actresses, you know.
You know, Nina, I think one of the ways to think about pop artists like Andy Warhol is that they were saying, so it's been a constant challenge for the painter to decide what is a good subject. Like up to the late 1800s and early 1900s, you know, even the idea of painting, like, say, an intimate figure of a mother and a child, like Mary Cassatt did, was considered very radical. It used to be paintings were very formal things. And so, as like the Impressionists and contemporary artists, you know, once the camera was invented, we didn't need it for photographing. The painting could become something else. In the late 18, you know, in the mid 1800s, painters began to change the concept of what the painting was. Now, one of those things was that they said, okay, A, we're not going to be realistic. We're going to work with color and light. The other is we're going to pick more informal subjects. So pop art was one step even further, because it was saying pop art was like, I'm going to take things that are in popular culture and in advertisements, and I'm going to place them in an artistic context also. So if you look at Roy Lichtenstein's work, or and actually pop art was hugely influential to the European artists that I met in like the 2000s, in like 2006 to 2009. A lot of artists would, like, one of my favorite artists in Armenia would paint. She's a woman named Garine Asatrian. Garine would paint like these giant Kinder eggs with like the Armenian church busting out and like other things. You know, like pop art is just saying, I can take what's in popular culture and make that part of my art. And so it's an extension of a thing that has been going on, you know what I mean? It's got a very long artistic history. That idea was pretty radical. As advertising began to explode and the visual images that we could see came through television, right? Like we were able to see these images more and more, you know, they are also part of our artistic experience. Like they could be used that way. So that is a lot of what Andy was doing. He was also making a lot of money and making people pee on.
Starting a cult.
Right. And starting a cult, right? I mean, we're not arguing about that. But Lichtenstein is one of my favorite. Lichtenstein is pretty amazing. And Robert Rauschenberg did some really great stuff. And there are just some really neat pieces. And I saw all this great art in Armenia, for example, in the early 2000s, that used pop art as a reference to totally talk about what was happening in their culture. And if you want to see something really interesting, go see the pop artists in any culture where like they're just learning about pop art. It totally explodes in these ways. Like now that I've said it, I'm going to see if I can find Garine Asatrian and send her to you, because she was really.
We had some interesting conversations this weekend during Open Studios about Hunter Biden. He's like the biggest joke for like old white dudes to bring up in an art gallery right now. And I mean, I had
Who's that?
Hunter Biden, the president's son, has.
Oh, his paintings, yes.
Oh, is he a painter? I had no idea.
He's not a painter. He's just learning.
Like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Oh, is he like a George Bush painter?
He's
Not as good as George Bush.
He's worse. Look up his
Oh
paintings
God.
and understand that they sell in art galleries for $1 million. So look them up. Look how much who he's
Yeah,
representing.
I kind of feel that way about Jim Carrey's paintings.
I watched a documentary about Jim
Thank
Carrey
you.
and his process and his acting process. So Jim Carrey is one of those actors that, like, I think they're called method actors, where they go all in and they play the character 24/7 while they're doing the work. His obsession with painting and art is very interesting. And what I said to most people, my response to most people about Hunter Biden is that no matter what, art is subjective. And I think that we see culturally that the experience of art is subjective, and what one person values over another person valuing it's very it's just all, you know, it's about the players of the game. Somebody is going to think that one person's work is life changing, and another person is going to think it's dumb or malarkey. You know, I hate Hunter Biden's work. but
You sure he's not money laundering?
that would make more sense, right?
I think that's probably it,
Well,
honestly.
people who are paying those prices are probably people who are hoping for influence. with
Right.
this-
Well, there's also like a huge money laundering problem in the art world.
Jerry Saltz talks a lot about the art critic who talks a lot about what he thinks Hunter Biden should be doing with the money he's getting from art. He doesn't believe that he should be able to sell art while his father is.
No,
You know,
no.
Well, that's good. At least.
Well, but after the Trump kids, it's hard to justify
Yeah.
saying,
right? Very different after the way that they really took advantage of the position of their father.
Yeah.
I'm gonna download these. I'm gonna share a couple of images of Garina Satrian's work that I found online.
Are you still a host so you can share your screen?
You know what? I'll just pop it on the thread.
Okay.
Pop it on the thread. It's probably the easiest.
Time around with my grid, I definitely made sure that I had a lot more really small boxes. I think part of it's because I'm working in a color scheme I enjoy more, so I want to spend more time making decisions. But it feels very interesting to me to be working on the really small boxes versus the like larger sections that I did in previous experiments with this.
All right. Oh yeah, some of these are really awesome. I think Garina is really talented, and I don't think she probably. Okay, I can show you guys a couple things. Let's see. Here's one. She did here. I'll share it. She did a series called The Good Guys, which is about mafia. Here it is. Here she is. There's her work. Come on. Oh yeah, Akhenaten Gallery will have a lot of her work. So I don't know if you can see these here.
oh yeah, very cool.
But she's using, oh yeah, this one's called Triumph of the Consumer. It's like, you know, she can paint like a fucking dream. The Good Guys. This
Wow,
is,
look at that.
yeah. So these are all sort of references to people and like the clothes they wear and how there was basically an exodus of Armenians, particularly crooked Armenians with money to LA, to Glendale. And then they've been kind of coming back and forth. So The Good Guys is all about that. It's all about the clothes they're wearing, right? The shoes they buy. This is a picture of on the newspaper is a picture of the president of Armenia at the time, who she's completely implicating in The Good Guys. But my favorites of hers are these candor, and you can see it up here as well. This kind of like, here's the wolf, where she's putting in, this isn't as successful. I'm not as much a fan of this piece, but you see how like all this, like sunglasses, art news, Liquitex paint, like she's putting in all these images that are kind of filtering into Armenia in her artworks, right? So that's not advertising. That is taking those images in a very particular way and, you know, showing how they're impacting her culture. She's really quite good. It's a shame because I don't think because she's a woman, she doesn't get half the respect. And I've never been able to help her sell as much as she could, but.
Her work is really interesting. And
Yeah.
She is very talented and really has a lot, and pop art was what she grabbed onto. That for her was how she could say what is happening in my country, you know. And she was born in the 50s, so she knows that whole, like, she has an entire experience of that history.
Wow.
Not snacking. Yeah. Oh, these are looking interesting. I like this. I like all those little grids you've got going, Krista.
Yeah, it's very interesting how different they make it look all of a sudden, you know?
Mhm.
I'm enjoying the color scheme a lot better, that's for sure. Even though it's still kind of just a different shade of the same stuff, which is, you know, wasn't an intentional choice. Definitely speaks to me more.
Jean, I like Jean and Leslie. I like how these two designs are totally playing off each other. How different they are. How this is a trip. It's kind of a trip. Oh my God.
I put LSD in my paint.
Les,
It is
no, I can't handle that.
interesting how differently we all chose the grids.
That is
Where, you know, it felt like perhaps we were going to all be very similar, but in the end, not really. And, you know, I have this experience at least where if you finish it successfully, like I'm like, yeah, I want to do another one, you know, and I kind of feel that way, which is really kind of a fun situation to be in. Oh man, my dog is being ridiculously adorable right now.
oh,
My dog probably doesn't even know where I am.
yeah. Oh, is that because Mike just got home?
Yeah, I got home Saturday. He had the best time. And it was a great trip.
It looked pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at your doggy.
Yeah, I'm in the garage with the door shut. And I went to the grocery store today and Mike was like, I think the dog was freaked out when you left. And I was like, well, that's because I'm the favorite one.
The door, the dog is like, don't fucking do that to me. You know I have no long-term memory.
I know. He's a really good dog. He's very lovable. We're so happy. He's really helping us. I mean, you know, not that we got a dog to help us, but you know.
No, I get you.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Dogs are lifesavers.
Yeah.
Dogs and cats.
Well, it's interesting, Leah, because how many classes is this now? 6, 7, 8?
Like 6, I think.
Yeah, my hand is so much better even in the last 6 weeks. I can hold the paintbrush a lot better.
Oh, this is helping. This
Yeah,
is
totally.
great.
I love it.
And it's not requiring that level of skill that you would have to be jumping into normally.
Yes.
Well, and the nice part is it's so different because the brain isn't like, I also should be doing it in a different way.
I want more people to jump into this class. I think people would really enjoy this. I'm going to do a big push in the fall.
Yeah, I think you could totally jump in. I was trying to get Peggy to jump in.
Oh, Peggy would love this class.
Well, she said she has some classes on her book, so I don't know. She's pretty busy right now. She's doing some other class every Saturday. Is that you, Leah? Maybe that's with you.
Not with me. Not with me.
Oh.
Yeah, because otherwise she'd be using up her classes with me. But yeah, she
Yeah, it's somebody. I can't remember.
I'm not doing any more in-person classes, so it wouldn't be, unless it's online, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, well, we found out yesterday that the college is expecting offices to be open 8 to 5 during fall, and we're not even done with the reopening committee. And I'm on the screening tool committee. I don't know what they're doing. It's just, they're not requiring vaccinations.
What school are you at, Leslie?
I'm at Mount Hood Community College out in Gresham.
That's an interesting choice to not require proof of vaccination. It'll be
Yeah, because all the universities are doing it. You know, I don't know what the problem is.
And honestly, like the military is going to be doing it. Like it's not going to be a big deal fairly soon.
It's required here now for all city workers, and that does include teachers and healthcare workers. Anybody.
Yeah, I read that today.
Yep, it's required now.
Good. It should
Yep.
be.
Should be.
I agree.
I
agree.
Again, our studio assistant is in the school district here, and she was talking about how at the end of last year, on the days that the kids weren't at school, like for in-service or whatever, the school teachers were required to wear masks who hadn't been vaccinated. And she's like, you know, the school keeps your vaccination records. So if you walk around campus without a mask on and you're not vaccinated, they know.
Yeah.
She was surprised at the number of people who were not vaccinated.
Yeah.
We just had this meeting today in the gallery about changing, you know, some of our protocols, which, you know, we opened up during COVID. We've been open the whole time. It's not, we're very used to making changes how we have to make changes, right? But it's interesting to still be, you know, we're having the conversations again.
I know, because of Delta. And
Yep.
because I saw a note the other day from a restaurant in California where they put a sign up saying, you can only be in this restaurant if you're not vaccinated and you have to prove it. I'm like, how do you fucking prove you're not vaccinated? Like,
It's ridiculous. Do they want any business?
they,
Yeah.
you
They
know,
want-
they're
They
wearing-
wanted the MAGA hat business.
I
Oh,
bet
God.
you have to swear fealty to Trump or something. Do you need to do the Heil Hitler? Like, you know, like, what the fuck do you do to prove you're not vaccinated? I was just fascinated. I mean,
The artist, I think it's Tenya Rodriguez. They had the painting in the beginning, in the intro of Rack, and we talked about it once there for a while. It's the abstract painting up there. Okay, so they work in janitorial at OHSU.
oh
They've
wow.
been posting about how many OHSU employees are getting sick who are vaccinated.
Oh. Who are
Well,
vaccinated?
people are still getting sick, but they're not dying. But I guess
Yeah.
we had a presenter from OHSU. He's a health economist. He was actually really good today at our all staff. And he's like, you know, the uptick in cases was related to mask wearing and people who are not vaccinated. And I'm just like, okay. I mean, I went to Freddy's today and you don't have to wear your mask, but people were wearing their masks and I wore mine.
I actually really appreciated that most of the people who came through for open
Yeah.
were wearing masks.
I figure if the worker has to wear their mask, I'm going to wear a mask for the worker. So
It's been my experience because, you know, I work in a food cart. I work in like a food cart window,
yeah.
which is what a weird cultural moment to experience twice a week, and just like
Yeah.
how people react, because you get all kinds of people, you know. My experience has been that if you're wearing a mask, people will put on a mask. That they will meet you
With a mask.
you're doing.
Well, here, like here, there's definitely parts of the country where that isn't happening.
Oh yes, Audrey's mom just drove through from Michigan to Oregon.
How's she doing? She get in okay?
Well, she's taking a nap right now because she unloaded her car today. And
Oh,
she's resting. She's very, 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 very happy.
good. That's really
So it's a brave thing to do.
She
to
drove
move-
from Michigan.
and she's 71. She moved.
Wow.
She moved out.
Oh my God.
good.
Has lived her entire life to come here and be with us. She's such a boss.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Very nerve-wracking. Way less nerve-wracking had she moved when we originally planned, which would have been 1 month into COVID. So
Yeah.
it's good to have her here. We got her a great apartment, and I think this is going to end up being like the best 20 years of her life. I really believe that. So we're all in. We're gonna have the cutest little gallery docent. Everybody's gonna want to come through.
Well, I would have come up this weekend, except for Mike got home early. So but
It was wild. This weekend was wild. I knew that the performance was going to be fun and that the weekend was going to be fun, but it was way more than expected. It was wonderful. And the number of people who tell you how much they appreciate what you're doing, that was really surprising to me. who just came
It
in.
impacts people. It really does impact people in ways you don't even know, but it's just like the environment and being around it has a major influence. It's
Yeah,
a good thing.
we got lots of comments just about how much they appreciated what we had built, what we were building here, that we were investing in the arts and bringing more, you know, to Astoria. So it was a really wonderful weekend. I'm slightly addicted now that I've changed my color palette. Funny how much that matters. You know, it looks nearly the same.
Yeah, I'm a little more excited about this one.
Right? This is, I'm like,
Yeah.
the first one I did in the new color palette, I definitely am like, I'm gonna keep that. I have like a weird
Blue
wall.
and yellow always reminds me of the Boy Scouts, and I think I have something
Yeah.
about that. It just must be my brothers or something.
I definitely chose like a color palette that reminds me, like I love 80s fashion and 80s music, and this definitely makes me think of that.
Okay, I have to jump off now, everyone. I'm going to be adding
Bye.
cobalt blue to mine. So yes, I picked this pink without seeing yours, just so you know, I wasn't copying.
You can try pink too. Pink is magic. Why?
Right.
Bye, Jean.
Bye, Jean.
Thank you for coming to class. I definitely use the smallest brush for the biggest square.
Oh my God.
Okay, Leah, do you know what kind of gouache I should buy, like the brand
Oh yeah.
or any? And yeah, or Krista?
You know, anything. I mean, honestly, I just get a set with like like at least 10 colors. I don't have recommendations on brand. I think you can get whatever you want. I think you'll just see that it's different. It can be applied on top of watercolor which is kind of not, which is how I'm going to recommend we start using it. Yeah, don't worry, just get a simple set, like any simple set in an art book.
Okay.
I love gouache. It's a very different experience.
Oh my, I'm just blown away by how different it is. It's
I
kind of,
used a lot of gouache in school.
it's really cool. I used to think, oh, that's
Yeah.
just kids like paint, right? Which is ridiculous. It's stupid. But really, it is halfway between acrylic and watercolor. So you can
I feel like sometimes it's even more opaque just because of the nature of how it
Yeah.
turns.
right, it's
That's
matte,
how I describe it.
matte. So it's like
Yeah.
not so shiny, but you can layer more and you can reactivate it, which is what's really cool. You know, you can get it wet again and like kind of blend it out in a way you can't do with watercolor. I don't know. I just think it's really neat. So just get anything, Nina.
Hey,
Okay.
Leah's love letter to go.
Yeah. Oh, I love I love how the tape looks. The tape.
Right. And then it does the,
Oh, I love
Love
that.
that blue.
it's a matte paint, which is an interesting, it's fun. It dries different and it looks different. And I really appreciate the matte-ness of it when I look at that. That's a whole nother layer, like level of consideration that we have with new technology and new paint is that we get to make decisions now that are not just about color, not just about line or shape, but they actually also exist in the shininess or the shimmeriness of the surface and what it means to use a multitude of matte to shiny. I use metallics and gold leafs and matte paints. And it's always very interesting how they play together or don't play together.
Ever use like a gel, like a medium for the paint ever with acrylics?
I have, so it's so funny that you asked me that. So I started getting this, Golden came out with a new matte and I was like, I'm gonna try that. That's this weird stuff like this, you know? And then I went to the local art supply store here and they gave me a tester of just about every Golden gel medium. And I just
Wow. Okay.
had the time to adequately test them all. I have been told that there is a way to make your paint almost chalk-like using some of these additives. So we're going to see what can happen once August, my August opens up a little bit better. And once August comes around, I think I'll be able to actually test them all. Oh my gosh, I love the orange and the pink. I know Jeannie's gone. Oh, Wes, your new color scheme looks so different. They're so much more vibrant.
Thank you. I like
Oh,
it. I
man.
bought a bunch of new paint, man.
I'm
Getting
so
really into
it.
these acrylics.
I'm
Well, it was
loving-
funny what Leah was just saying about gouache, because that's how I kind of used to feel about watercolor and acrylics. I was like, yeah, fuck that. I use oils,
Yeah.
you know? And I'm just like, okay, because I just couldn't get used to how fast things would dry, you know? But now that I'm learning how to use them,
Huh.
I'm really liking it.
Like,
Well, and there are additives that you can add to slow down your drawing. And you can also
Yeah, I bought some.
And have you used Golden's Open yet? Because they're definitely slower. They're black tubes, which you know Golden tubes are typically white.
Yeah.
And they're all of Golden's normal colors. They're just pre-mixed with the right amount of that additive to slow down the dry.
Oh, okay.
It gives
Okay.
you about 24 hours, which is kind of nice with acrylics.
nice,
So
Nina. By the way, it's good to see some of your work here too.
Okay, thanks. Well, I was thinking about the medium because we're drawing balls for color blending when Leah's class on Sunday and the acrylic dries in like 5 seconds. So I thought
Yeah.
maybe using the medium would help.
it's the it's called Wetting Agent.
Right.
Is the name of the medium.
Oh, you
Let
can
me
send
look.
a picture later or type it in or whatever.
I got into the bottle, so I'll be able to show you.
Bro, you just have to get, I mean, the soft blend that's really the soft edge. That's really it's the hallmark of all painting. So
Yeah.
used to doing it. For some people, it's easier to do it with oil because but for other, in every medium, you need to be able to do it. So the more you practice it, the quicker you get. But it's a whole thing. And for some people, it's kind of natural and easy. For other people, it's harder. It requires more practice. Right?
So this is glazing. This is the additive that they gave me to slow it down, to make it not dry as fast. It comes in satin and matte. I just happen to get the satin glazing version. What's nice about it is it doesn't break up
Yeah.
the pigment very much, so it still looks the same. You're going to have to get used to figuring out what your personal ratio is, though.
Huh? Okay.
Interesting.
So
Sounds good. What's it called again?
called satin glazing liquid. It's by Golden, and then they have a matte glazing liquid.
Okay.
And it says on the bottle, slow drying extender for acrylic colors. Well, I love my last two in my fun color scheme.
And you've
I'm
got
actually really, huh?
more
Oh
white
God, it's almost 5:30.
in there too. I like how that is. I like that.
It's interesting, and it's interesting how, because I like the colors, I feel the need to use them more, but having to show some restraint about still leaving white space and how the lines changed for each of the four that I did. I definitely started with like bigger lines, and then ended up, with some fairly like tiny, more lines.
Nice,
Oh,
Leslie.
that hot pink.
Ah,
Thank you.
That's the fluorescent magenta. You can't ever say no to Golden's fluorescent magenta.
what's the
I
blue-
got some of that. Yeah.
It's a good one. Because it's also great, like it layers on so many dark colors, like it layers really beautifully on blues and really beautifully on purples. Because it's got kind of a purple tint to it. It's very nice. Yeah, Les, that looks so good. The new color scheme is really nice.
Thank you.
I very much enjoyed this class. I wish I could tell you all who is next, but that decision will probably be made today, and I'm sorry. It's been crazy.
Good class.
But it was enjoyable, and I hope that everybody else enjoyed it. We are coming up on
Yeah.
As always, thank you, Krista. It was really great.
Great class. Yep.
Jessica, I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad you're here. I've been missing you. So it's
Thank you. Yeah, this was nice. I would probably still be working if not for this class, and I'm feeling better about my life in general now that I have started this painting.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
It was wonderful to spend the afternoon part of the day with you all.
Yeah. It was great. And Krista, do you know who we're going to be looking at next week? Or are you still thinking about it?
She just said.
Oh, really?
That's why I'm laughing. I'm sorry. Pay attention, Kohlenberg.
I haven't made the decision yet, but that I'll probably make it today is my plan. I'm gonna map out the next couple so that they connect. So
Sorry.
Open Studios really took like all of my extra energy and time.
Right.
So, you know,
Yes. And I don't know what my excuse is. I just came back from vacation.
I feel like vacation is a necessity. I just haven't been able to get to that point yet.
Right. Right. Great work, my dear. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
This was fun.
everybody. Thanks, everyone. Great
Thank
class.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Everybody later.